what are the 40s like? As someone who's turning 50 in the next 8 months in March 2025, let me assure you, they can be the most spectacular and the most savage decade. And I'm sure it gets better from here. So a lot of people think that 40s is actually the end. I started a new career in my 40s and it has done better than my previous career. So I definitely want to talk about my 40s. I feel there's so much that we can, chat about and we can learn from my 40s, me as well as you. Before I start, there is a question that I want to ask you. If you're below 40, if you're in your 20s or your 30s, I want to ask you, what do you want your 40s to be like? Who do you want to be? What is the kind of work do you see yourself doing? What are your ambitions for when you're 40? And if you're above 40, I want to ask you, have you fulfilled all your dreams? Do you have some dreams left over? Do you have new dreams in your 40s? Are you happy with the kind of person you are? Are you happy with what you achieved? And when I talk about achievement, I'm not saying your designation or where you're working or whether you're working also or not. I just want to know, are you happy with who you are and what you've done with your life? I really want to know this, so put all of this in the comments below. I will come back and reply to every comment. Trust me, this is worth talking about. But let me start by telling you what my 40s were like, and I want to start with the most important thing. I actually started a brand new career in my 40s. I come from an era where there were not too many professional choices when you graduated, right? So if you had decent marks, you did an MBA and then you got into some sort of a corporate professional environment. Also, I think the challenge was that we looked at career as a job. What is the job I want? What is the job that is trendy? What is the job that will make me good money? And we never really looked at our skills. What is it that I'm good at? What is it that I would like to do? So, 25, 30 years back, this is not what we looked at. So, for example, I was very good at speaking. I was very good at speaking in front of an audience. I was very good at engaging with an audience. In my college life, I used to work as a freelance MC and host for events, and I was very good at it. But I never looked at it as a professional career because, I thought, what is this career? And I think people around me also did not look at it as a career choice, which is why decent marks, so MBA, and then fell into advertising because I wanted to do something creative. Do I have regrets? No, I don't, because I feel that today, whoever I am, my marketing and advertising career actually shaped me, because I feel at any given point of time, who you are is a sum of everything that you've done and everything that you've experienced, right? So my marketing and advertising life also shaped me into who I am. Today I understand marketing and advertising, I understand brands. I'm able to market myself really well as a learning facilitator and as a speaker. So that has really helped me. But I also feel that being a speaker or being something to do with speaking could have been a better career choice for me, right? So till 2012, I was working in marketing and advertising, and in 2012, I was working with Kingfisher Airlines, and when that folded up, I thought this was an opportunity for me to try something of my own. I really didn't want to make a CV and go look for another job. So I said, let me try something of my own. I floundered for a bit. It was not a cakewalk. I really honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. I was very lucky that in about 3 to 4 years, I fell into doing something which I really love, which is speaking, and I became a learning facilitator, right? Now, this was when I was about 40 odd years. So I quit from Kingfisher. I did not want to make a CV, and I said, let me start something of my own. First, I set up a agency, an event agency actually, because I understand marketing and I had a vendor list. So I said, let me just start an agency. I don't want to do very large events. I wanted to do internal events for corporates like team building and fun Fridays and all of that. So for a couple of years, I did that. It went okay. I hired a bit of a team. It was very ops led. I wasn't enjoying it so much. Also, the other thing that happened was that every event, for it to be successful, required a very good MC, and somehow I never found a good MC. So I would land up taking the mic from the MC I had hired and hosting the event, and I loved that because I used to love that even when I was, young in my college. I used to do that. I used to be so good at it, and all of that came back to me, and I started enjoying it once again. So I asked myself, I said, is this agency what I want to do, or do I want to build a career around me and speaking? It was the latter. So I did a lot of soul searching and I came up with the latter. I said, this is what I want to do. So I said, now how do I start this? So I said, okay, I will, everything that I am good at, everything that I've learned, which is my presence, my executive presence, my communication skills, my presentation skills, I will teach that to people, right? So I developed 2 or 3 workshops, one of which was a presentation skills workshop, which is and continues to be my best selling workshop. I have trained so many people in corporates on presentation skills. So I made like a little note saying this is what I will teach, and I went back to my clients. All the clients that had me for those events, I went back to them and I said, this is what I have, will you hire me? A couple of clients gave me that chance. The workshops did really well, and that's how my speaking career started. It was a lot of hard work in the beginning because I did a lot of free sessions for people, for them to see how I would, perform. A lot of people initially turned me down because I didn't have like a long, illustrious speaking career behind me. I was starting out afresh. But I think I was very dogged in my determination. I also had a plan and a process in place. I'm going to do X amount of free sessions so that people can see how I do it. I'm going to charge a certain amount, and I'm going to make myself different. What is my USP? How can I differentiate myself as a learning facilitator and a speaker who talks about executive presence? And then I started doing content to market myself, which also really, really helped. I started a YouTube channel and all of this. So I built very slowly and steadily a new career in my 40s. And this time it was very different. The way I approached it also was very, very different. I looked at it as something that I really honestly wanted to do and enjoy. This was a second chance, and a second chance at doing something that I understood more and I loved more than my first career, right? So I also brought into it a lot of learnings. You're older, you're wiser, you can negotiate with people better, you understand your own worth better. I think in your 40s, that's the one thing that you have to do. You have to be very, very confident with who you are. You have to know who you are, and you have to be extremely confident with who you are, because that then comes across in your work, in the way you interact with people, in the way you look for business, in the way you shape your life. Your self-confidence and your self-value, how you value yourself, is the most important thing in your 40s, and you should definitely have it by your 40s. You should have a lot of confidence in yourself, and you should really value yourself. And I think that really worked for me. So I took all of these learnings and I put a process in place, and I started a new career. And touch wood, it has done well, because this time, like I said, I was more intentional. It wasn't just something I was doing because I was supposed to do it and I was supposed to follow a certain path. Way more intentional. Everything was way more intentional. What I was doing was more intentional. How I was doing it was more intentional. How I was approaching it was more intentional, and I had a lot of self-confidence. So it really, really helped, and that's how I started my brand new career in my 40s. The second thing that I did in my 40s that I'm super, super proud of is that I started a YouTube channel. And I still remember when I said that I would start a YouTube channel, a couple of people, including my husband, told me that, you're really good at what you do, but now you're opening yourself up for, criticism and feedback from strangers and perhaps even trolling. Are you ready for it? And I remember thinking, yes, I am. I'm going to do this. And it did require a lot of courage. So I am someone, and I've learned this in my 40s, I am someone who's very comfortable with who I am. Any kind of trolling, and there's been a lot of trolling in the recent past on a couple of videos on my Instagram. I've realized that being comfortable with yourself and who you are makes you immune to any kind of negative trolling. It makes you differentiate between positive feedback, something that you should be learning from and taking, and negative and useless criticism and feedback which doesn't affect you at all. So I realized that I'm very comfortable with who I am. I'm also very comfortable with my voice, what I want to say. By my voice, I mean what is it that I want to say. I'm very sure of that. So I said, okay, I'm going to start creating content. So I was already on LinkedIn, but I wasn't aggressive on LinkedIn. But I said, let me start being aggressive on LinkedIn, because my work as a learning facilitator, a lot of my leads come from LinkedIn. That's where my clients are. So I started writing more on LinkedIn at that point. And I also started a YouTube channel. Now, here's the thing, when I first started a YouTube channel, it was for a interview series that I wanted to do called the She Means Business Chat Show. This was because, as a learning facilitator, I used to see way less women in my leadership workshops, and that used to really trouble me. And one day I was doing a leadership workshop for a company. There were 36 men and no women. And I remember thinking, how is it possible that this company has no women in the pipeline for leadership positions? And I remember feeling very disappointed. And that night I was out for dinner with my husband, and I said, I really want to do something about this. And so that's when I decided that I would do an interview series with women who were inspiring, women who had achieved a lot in mid and senior management. And I would call it the She Means Business Chat Show, and build more role models. And I would call the YouTube channel She Means Business. That's actually how the name She Means Business started. My company is called Life is More. When I started the events, in 2014, I set up a company called Life is More, because life is more than just work at work. It is also about bonding and having fun, and that's how Life is More came into place. But She Means Business started when that fateful night when I said that I need to do something for more women in the workforce. I decided that I'm going to run this interview series called the She Means Business Chat Show, and I'm going to have a YouTube channel called She Means Business. I decided, I actually reached out to women, women who were well established, doing well, corporates as well as entrepreneurs, and said, I want to shoot this with you, an interview series, because I want to build more role models. So many of them said yes, so really, how will you know till you don't ask, So I actually went out and asked all of these women, and so many of them said yes, which is just proof that ask and people will come back and people will deliver. How will you know till you don't ask? It was a surprise for me. And that's how the channel started. I did a lot of interviews. I enjoyed it. Now I decided that I have a YouTube channel. Why don't I also use it for my work? So everything that I teach, can I also build content around that? So which is how I started presentation skills and communication skills. So if you've been a subscriber for long, you know the kind of content I do on my channel. If you're new and you just stumbled upon this video, you can go back and check out my channel. You'll see lots of content on how to create a more impactful presence. Initially, when I started the YouTube channel, I started it as for the She Means Business Chat Show. Then I started using it to market myself as a content creator, so as a learning facilitator. So I spoke about presentation skills, which if you remember was my best-selling workshop, and then I spoke about communication skills and looking well put together and body language and confidence, everything that I teach as a learning facilitator. So it became like a place where people could go and see how I speak, what are the topics I speak about, and it really helped me to get new business. And now in the recent past, I've decided that not only am I going to talk about my work related content, but I'm actually going to increase the scope on this channel and start talking about everything, life lessons basically, everything I as a 49-year-old or someone who's turning 50, everything that I've learned and everything that I have seen and everything that I feel can inspire or educate people on anything, on personal and professional development. So this channel is actually going to talk about that. So I actually started a YouTube channel in my 40s, and I remember first also going and doing a little bit of research to see, are there people like over 40 who are doing decently well on YouTube, because I wasn't sure. I thought it was a very young thing. Also, I didn't know how technologically okay I was to start a channel, figure out how to upload videos and all. But I did it, and this channel today, as I'm making this video, has nearly 20,000 subscribers. So I think I did well. So I started a YouTube channel in my 40s and I've grown it to 20k subscribers. I also have a thriving LinkedIn presence, in terms of content. So I think, yes, that is another thing I did in my 40s, which is just trying something new. And again, to recap, it wasn't just a YouTube channel. It was actually an interview series where I reached out to a very, very senior women and they said yes to someone who they did not even know to appear on my... Today, podcasts are very, very popular, but at that point in 2017, 2018, they weren't, So I feel that, this is something that I tried. I was courageous enough to reach out to people. They said yes. I put it up on YouTube. I garnered a lot of views for it. And it just did so well. So I think, courage to start something new, and also courage to put yourself out in front of people. I think that is something I did. I feel that I'm privileged enough to have a voice. I must share it with people. So the courage to share your voice in front of people and take all the feedback and sometimes even the negative criticism and do stuff with it, and be brave enough to take it, and be brave enough to continuously keep sharing your voice. That's another thing I learned in my 40s. Point number 3. This is Bossy. Bossy is insisting on cuddling, which is what he does every afternoon. So we'll have to chat with him on my lap. Okay, so the third thing that I did was I started driving intercity solo driving. And this actually means a lot to me because, I started driving very, very young. I started driving when I turned 18. My mom, put me into a driving school, and, my mom didn't know how to drive. And in a city like Delhi, where you're dependent on, public transport, and, you feel very constrained because you can't move around the way you would want to, and it's also not very safe. My mom understood the need for being independent mobility. So the minute both me and my sister, we turned 18, she put us into a driving school, and she would come with us. She would wake us up early in the morning, 7 o'clock. She would sit piche and we would go for driving lessons. And so she ensured that I learned driving very, very young. And my husband actually gave me a lot of confidence to drive. I learned driving, but I actually started driving much more regularly after my marriage. I feel every woman should know how to drive. It doesn't matter whether you own a car or you don't own a car. You really should know how to drive because it makes you independent. And also because I feel it just gives you the confidence to be able to maneuver, this machine on the road, fighting for space, etc. It makes you very, very confident. So I used to drive within the city very confidently, very well. I can park like a boss. But then I had one client in Pune, and I had to go from Bombay to Pune several times, and I would do a cab, and it would be very, tiring. And when I got to Pune, after my workshop, I didn't know what to do, because I was not mobile. So one day my husband said, why don't you just drive down to Pune? I said, on the highway, alone? He said, yeah, it's just another road. I said, no, it's not just another road, it's an expressway. How am I going to do this? So he said, listen, if you feel nervous, you park to a side and call me, we'll chat, but I know you can do it. You're a brilliant driver. And I still remember, I said okay. And the first time I drove down to Pune, I was so elated with myself. I felt like this heroine, music chal raha hai, and wind in my hair. And when I reached Pune, I really felt like, oh my God, I have achieved so much. So, I started, after that, of course, I became very confident and I started driving intercity for a lot of things. But I think this is something that made me so much more confident with my own self. The ability to independently move around and independently move around between cities is a joy, and it gives you so much confidence in yourself. And only if you're a woman will you understand this. For a man, this will be like drive to kiya. I'm telling you, for a woman, we derive confidence and we derive, self-worth from so many of these small things that for me, being able to drive alone intercity was such an achievement. And I think it added so much value to me as a person that I could see. So in my own eyes, my value for myself went up tremendously. I'm so happy I started doing it and I feel so good about it. Fourth, I really found my style. I I was always a well-dressed person, but in my 40s, I think I really found my style and I owned it. I love saris. I've always worn saris. In fact, sometimes I joke that I started working only because I wanted to wear saris and head out somewhere. But in my 40s, I really, really found my style. I understood exactly how I wanted to put myself together. I understood my skin, I understood my hair, I understood my body shape, what is it that makes me feel comfortable, what is it that makes me feel good about myself, whether it's saris or dresses or whatever it is. I really found my style and I really owned it. I think the biggest thing that happened was that I stopped looking at myself from other people's eyes. I looked at myself the way I wanted to look at myself. So, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, wow, this looks so good on you. And what anyone else thought about my style really did not matter to me, because I knew, I was 100% confident that I'm going to carry this off, and I was 100% confident that I'm looking good in it. So I think by the time you hit your 40s, I think it's very important to understand your style. And style it also evolves with time. It also evolves with who you are as a person. You could have phases. You could be in a certain phase where you only want to wear denims, or you could be in a certain phase you only want to wear very dark or the colors. So that is perfectly okay. But by the time you hit your 40s, you should be sure of what is looking good on you, what is it that you like, what is classic. So trends and phases is fine, but what is that one classic look that is yours and that you completely own, and that looks really good on you? And I found that in my 40s. I'm not saying that in my 20s and 30s I didn't have it, but I think I was still experimenting, I was still evolving, I still had a lot of phases. Even now I have phases. I go from very big earrings to chunky necklaces, and so it doesn't really matter. But now I know what is it that I would like to be, who is it that I would like to be, and what is it that I would like to look at. And I think that's very, very big. The confidence to wear what you want to wear and own that and let it become a part of your personality, and reflect who you are and reflect your personality. I think that is something you should definitely achieve in your 40s. The second last thing that I want to talk about is that I learned swimming. So I've always been very, very scared of the water and of swimming. I have this illogical fear that if I put my head underwater, I'm going to drown. And for many years, I've lived with this fear. Every holiday, everywhere where there's been a swimming pool, Dipika has been that one person who has been standing in the shallowest portion with water not going up above her waist. And all my friends' kids laugh. They're like, Dipika, auntie, why are you so scared? I'm like, I can't help it. But this year, I decided to learn swimming, and there's a whole video I've done about why I learned swimming. It's because I'm forever competing with my husband. What he's doing, I also have to do it, so that we can have experiences together. If he is doing something because he wants to go on a trek, I want to go on that trek too, because shared experiences, right? If I'm doing something, he wants to do it too, because shared experiences, right? So he said, I want to go diving. I said, अरे अब मुझे भी जाना पड़ेगा because shared experiences. अब उसके लिए swimming, थोड़ा बहुत swimming तो आना चाहिए. You need to know some bit of swimming. I mean, how will you go diving if you're scared of the water? I mean, you have to not just put your head, you have to immerse yourself into several feet of water. That's why I decided to learn swimming. And this time, I was clear. I was like, I'm not going to say no. I had such a mindset shift, which is again something that I discovered in my 40s, that everything is about mindset. If you make up your mind and if you tell yourself a positive story, you will be able to do it. So all my life I had been telling myself I can't swim, which is why I couldn't swim. For the first time in January this year, I told myself I can swim, I will learn, and that shift in the story I told myself, I can instead of I can't, I think really shifted it for me. And I suddenly went from this one person who said no to this person, okay, let me try, let me see what the instructor is saying, let me see whether I can do this or not. And just that little shift from I can't to I can completely shifted something in me, and I actually landed up learning swimming. And I remember the day I went for my diving certification, I had to swim in my husband keeps laughing, but I had to swim in 17 feet of water, 17 feet of water. And I looked at the water and I was like, I can't do this, but I did it, So for me, it was a huge, huge, huge achievement. I mean, I know that it sounds like swimming hi to hai, it was such a huge achievement because for me it was a mindset shift. And the learning was that when you go from I can't to I you can move mountains. The minute you say that, I can do this, let me at least try. What is the worst that can happen? As opposed to I can't. You can actually move mountains. So that's another thing that I did in my 40s. I got over my fear of swimming. I learned swimming and I started swimming, and I'm so proud of myself for doing that. So I think that's a huge achievement. And the last thing that I did in my 40s, which I want to talk about, is that I think I'm my fittest best. I'm fitter than I was in my 20s and 30s, and I have a broad frame, so sometimes when you look at me, it may not look at it, but I want you to go to my Instagram channel and see the kind of weights that I've been lifting and how strong I feel. So 20s and 30s, I didn't really think about fitness so much. I ran the half marathon, I did things inconsistently, but it's only in my 40s, and now particularly in my late 40s, this last year, because I realized that to be able to continue doing things that I enjoy doing, like, I want to go on a trek, for example, or I want to party all night, for example, very rarely now, but suppose I want to dance, I should be able to do that, right? Also, if I go on a holiday and I have to walk around the whole day, I should have the stamina and the muscles for it. Also, simple things like if I sit down on the ground, I should be able to get up easily without having 5 people help me up. So which is why fitness became a focus in the 40s, and I'm very happy it has. My husband is a very fit person. He's someone who's very disciplined about his fitness, and for him it is a way of life. For me, it is still not a way of life. It is not something I do as a part of my lifestyle. I still have to push myself into fitness, but I think it is something that I've been more consistent with. I fell off the wagon the last 2-3 years, but I've come back now. And but I've definitely been more fit in my 40s than I was in my 20s and 30s. So that's pretty much it. This was my 40s, and I think the few things, if I were to sum it up, the few things that I would say that I've learned is that one is complete confidence in who I am. Complete, acceptance and confidence in who I am. This is who I am. I like myself, and I will continue to work on improving myself. I'm not going to change that. I will continue to work on improving myself. But I'm also not going to be negative about myself. I'm not going to say, oh my God, Dipika, you're like this. Oh my God, Dipika, you didn't do this. No, I'm going to be very positive. So I'm going to like myself. I'm going to love myself, but I'm going to continue working on improving myself. I think that has been my biggest thing. And this very positive mindset shift of, I can do things. I can do new things. I'm going to try new things. I'm going to continue to adding to myself, and I'm going to continue to grow. So much of my 40s has been about growth. So much of my 40s has been about new things, about spreading my voice, about going out and creating content, about speaking to large bodies of people in the work that I do. So, I have learned to be courageous in my 40s. I think if I were to sum it up, I would say, I would just say confidence and courage. Both of those go hand in hand. And I think my 40s have been about courage, and I've been about confidence, and I'm so excited with everything that I've done in my 40s, because I feel now 50 is this switch that I'm going to turn on, and everything that I've taken from my 40s I'm going to use in my 50s, and I'm hoping to make them even more spectacular and to grow even more as a person and as a professional. I have a lot of expectations from my own self from my 50s, and I'm hoping that from this video, I'm hoping that you learn about what you can do with your 40s as well, and how you should use your 20s and your 30s to feed into what your 40s will be like. I think that's very important. And if you're 40, maybe you can say that there's still time, and I can also still do much more. I know that I want to do lots more. I'm not done yet. So I know there is so much more down that I want to do, and this is just the beginning. That's what I feel. The 40s have taught me that this is just the beginning. So this is Dipika Singh. This was a long video with a guest appearance by Bossy. Bossy is my Dachshund dog, and every afternoon he likes to come and cuddle. If I'm home, he likes to come and cuddle with me and sleep in my lap if I'm working on my desk. So this is Bossy, and this video has been made with Bossy in my lap. But I sincerely hope you have lots of takeaways from this video, and I sincerely hope you've enjoyed. If you have, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to follow me on other social media channels as well. This is Dipika Singh. You can find me as She Means Business Dipika Singh pretty much everywhere. Till next time. Bye-bye.